Okay, so quick overview of the Stealth Swap update. On the left side, this is my 91 Dodge Stealth that was my daily driver since '05. Super rusty to the point where it's falling apart, and even though the powertrain and drivetrain was in decent shape, I couldn't use it for rust reasons. It got to the point where, I'll show you, it's falling apart underneath. So I have this 95 Stealth, which is the second gen. Both of them twin turbo all-wheel drive. My original one with all-wheel steering and the new one without all-wheel steering. This one is from Florida and it has no rust, so I'm essentially taking all of my performance parts, powertrain and drivetrain, out of this one and putting them into this one. And this one actually was really nice because it came to me without an engine. So I actually haven't done any work in here. This is just how it came to me because the guy before me in Florida blew his engine and then moved after he started an engine swap. So what have I done? Obviously I've pulled the engine. So this engine has aftermarket, lots of stuff. Nothing on the inside of the engine, all bolt-ons really, but they're pretty big bolt-ons. So I did have the exhaust manifold re-welded because in here the exhaust manifold starts to crack sometimes, especially from IPS, which I think went out of business since I bought this. So I had the exhaust manifold re-welded. I redid the timing belt, which is all behind here, which was my first time doing that. And also, while I was at it, at the suggestion of Josh Dace, put in a brand new oil pump as well, because he made me feel bad for not doing it sooner. So the engine is actually ready to go into the new Stealth. In here, you can see there's, this is the AC compressor, and it actually is different from this generation to the second generation. I think the reason for that being different is because they went from R12 to R134A, and 134A is not as efficient, so probably needs a bigger pump. But what that does for me is made me get a new air conditioning bracket. So this is where the AC compressor sits, and I had to swap that one out for a second gen, which I was able to get on 3SI. So in here we have a whole bunch of parts that still need to come out. Fuel injector stuff, meth injector stuff. This is an oil catch can, fuel injectors, and a whole bunch of wiring and vacuum line that I need to pull. One thing that was kind of funny, I took a picture of it, but sitting inside here, this is the inside of my my front mount intercooler, and I found a whole bunch of really messed up old paper towels. I think that was shoved into an intercooler once to keep bolts from falling in, and then wasn't removed. So that'll probably help me in power now that I've cleared that out. So obviously I still have the front mount to move, but most of the rest of the turbo system, our intercooler piping, is out. So these are the front axles. They are going to, on one side, which is this side, it goes to the wheels. And on the other side, it's going to the transfer case. So this is the transfer case that I had to pull off of my Stealth because it has a different gear ratio than the new Stealth has. And the new Stealth I don't even think had a transfer case. And this bracket gave me, so this is an aftermarket bracket to hold the transfer case together during hard launches. And I forgot one of the bolts that was kind of hidden when I was trying to pry it off. I spent hours trying to get that off and bending the metal a little bit before I found out that the bolt was in there, like an idiot. So anyway, that's off. And fun fact, actually, the drive shaft, so this connects, on one side is the intake, and the other side is where the drive shaft comes out and it delivers power to the rear wheels. The drive shaft of mine is about 1 inch different in length than the drive shaft of the new Stealth. So I actually took the front section of the drive shaft from my Stealth, put it onto the new Stealth, and this is that section from the old Stealth. So this is the drive shaft front section. I'm sure it has a fancy name, like front half or something. But this is the part that goes into the transfer case, and then this just bolts up to the rest of the drive shaft using 4 screws, bolts and nuts actually. So then not only is the drive shaft a little bit different in length between the two cars, but the rear differential is also a different gear ratio. So I jacked up that car first and took off the rear axles. So the rear axles are these guys, very similar to the front axles. These took forever. I mean, really, this is just 4 bolts that connect this section to the wheel hub. And after I finally broke those bolts free, and only 1 out of the 8 broke, then I still couldn't get this thing off because the end of it had just straight up seized to the wheel hub. Straight seized. So I ended up hitting it with my 3-pound hammer and extension, a ratchet extension. So anyway, but this big mother is that's the differential from the newer Stealth. So here you have the drive shaft connects the same way as everything else. It's just these 4 screw locations where a bolt goes through and it grabs onto it. And then the axles go in there, and there's gear ratios that are happening inside, and it's differentialing, which is my adjective or verb way of saying that it helps make sure that the wheels are spinning at the right speeds during turns. So this is the underside of my old Stealth, and this is the reason why I'm getting rid of it. All of this is rust that has fallen on me while I've been working on the differential, getting the old one out so I can swap it into the new one. Here you can see the exhaust is on the ground. Also, I made the horrible mistake of agreeing to have an exhaust guy weld up every section. So normally the front section of the downpipe is not welded to the rest of it, but I made the mistake of having him weld it when he said, hey, it'd be easier if I welded it, so he did. And now it's one massive section of pipe, which is a real pain to move up and down, especially as only one person. And so this is my most recent feat. This is the old Stealth differential that needs to go into the new one. So here you can see there's a pump on top. This piece here wasn't sitting on the other differential, and that's because this one has all-wheel steering, and the all-wheel steering is powered by the oil pump sitting on top of the differential. Kind of cool. So I need to plug up this thing, which I need to take off and figure out how to do, but that'll not be too bad. And then I can put the axles back in here. So this is where you can see it connects. These 4 bolts on this thing are what connect the axle hub to the axle, and then the differential will come back in here, and you can see the drive shaft is sitting here in space waiting for its differential to come back. And I've also done a little bit of the fuel pump work, so I have to run a hot wire from the front to the back, and I've been waiting to do that because I didn't have a good way to pull it, but I just got some clothes hanger wire stuff, which I'm going to use to run through the firewall. And then after I run a couple more vacuum lines through the firewall, and also electrical lines through the firewall, easier to do when the engine is out, then I'll finally be able to put my engine back in. Some other things that I want to do, you can see that this side of the Stealth, my old Stealth, has this really cool aggressive line coming off of the door, and this one has a really stupid soft line. So to fix that, I need to change out this lower door panel and also the fender skirt thing that rides all the way around here. That's a lower priority though. I also, at some point, want to put my old Stealth hood on here, because the new Stealth hood doesn't look all that good, and the front bumper of the new Stealth looks pretty crappy also, in my opinion, compared to the older Stealth hood. So I want to change, or bumper, so I want to change that. And to be perfectly honest, I don't really like the projector style headlights. Kind of want to get my bumper style headlights back. But to do that, I need to cut out this section of metal here all the way across, and the same on the other side. So this big metal truss system or backing that holds all the bucket stuff in place is different than what's sitting over here. You might be fooled into thinking they're the same, but I've measured and they are different. Anyway, so this is the Stealth project. I'm pretty excited not to get rid of my old baby. I do miss her. but to have a new one, which I will treat better and not drive in winter. And this one even comes with a sunroof that comes off. It is awesome. So I'm excited to finally put that to use too. Anyway, time to get back to work.